Good Friday, July 12th, 2024. We're gathered here today to talk about weather again. But to be honest with you, compared to some of the more recent updates we've had, things are pretty quiet right now. We don't have any major hurricanes. We don't have any little hurricanes. We don't even have any potential hurricanes right now. We don't have a lot of severe weather to talk about in the immediate future, but that's going to change. And that's why I'm making this video. But just bask in the glory of this mostly quiet satellite image for now. Pretty stark contrast between right now and just a week ago or so, whenever we were talking about Hurricane Beryl, a historic hurricane, now up to 30 fatalities, 14 of those coming from the United States. Not only was it historic because it was the earliest Category 5 hurricane ever recorded, one of the strongest down here in the Caribbean as well. It also had a huge impact along the U.S. coast and further inland, even after it became a tropical storm or a low-end hurricane, whatever it was, as it traversed across a big portion of the United States. Obviously, we had the flooding and the storm surge and everything along the coast, but look at all those red boxes there. This thing ended up producing a historic tornado outbreak of epic proportions from Louisiana all the way up through portions of the Appalachian Mountains into Vermont and New Hampshire, which is partially responsible for some of those fatalities. Also, significant flash flooding as a result of this storm led to people drowning and, all kinds of bad things up and down the central and eastern portions of the U.S. So thankfully, we're done with Beryl, but my goodness, for our first trackable system of the year, it's really started off with a bang. There's still about 1 million people without power in Texas, and they're working on getting that back up. We went from 1.4 million and we're down to 800,000 now, so hopefully that number keeps going down. The good news is there's no immediate threat for anything new anytime soon, okay? We don't have any big systems forming in the Atlantic right now. We've just got this one little swirling area of interest over here off the coast of South Carolina, which is not going to turn into a hurricane. It's just a spinny little thing, and the National Hurricane Center has been keeping an eye on it, but it's essentially got a 0% chance of turning into a named storm. It is chucking quite a bit of moisture onto the coast, though. Today and tomorrow, we do expect to see excessive rainfall along the East Coast, especially there around Richmond, Virginia, up towards New York City. You guys have got to watch out for some significant rainfall, maybe some flash flooding, as some places are going to get 3 to 6 inches of rain pretty daggone quick. Here's what the radar could look like today around 4 p.m. Notice our heavy rain showers and thunderstorms over here in North Carolina and Virginia. That's what's going to be causing our potential flooding problems. That's going to work up the I-95 corridor and really start to dwindle a little bit after 11 p.m. tonight. So these storms are going to be juiced, okay? They're not going to be very widespread. I would say that we've definitely seen more impressive potential radar scans than this. However, if you do end up in one of those downpours, it's going to be absolutely nuts as we have precipitable water values higher than what they normally are. So flash flooding is going to take place very quickly here, but watch what happens as we go later into the evening, into the overnight hours, and then into the early morning hours tomorrow, Saturday, 7 a.m. We've got this disturbance up here in Canada. Man, those Canadians are throwing down some energy towards the United States that's really not going to vibe well with our massive heat surge, okay? We've got a huge area of heat that's building up here, and when this little puff of cool air from Canada tries to come down into the United States and interact with that, it is going to lead to a pretty significant severe weather situation on Saturday. Late in the evening, watch those cells pop up in Minnesota, up into the UP of Michigan, also in Wisconsin. These right here, the ones that pop up out in front of the main line, are going to have a very real tornado threat coming along with them. This is happening at like midnight. Pretty severe weather situation possible Saturday into Sunday as that turns into a damaging wind event as it moves into Indiana, southern portions of Michigan, and maybe even into Ohio as we go into the day on Sunday. And this is going to kind of set up this pattern where the jet stream is oriented this way, and we continue to get warm air moving up against it and cool air trying to plop down this way. And in the middle where those meet, we're going to have several rounds of storms just like this. And this is pretty typical for this time of year, but yeah, get ready in this corridor for probably several rounds of severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center is pretty much seeing the same thing. We got a marginal risk of severe weather today, mostly up there in the northern plains. Not a lot going on today. Once again, it's pretty quiet. Tomorrow, though, as we take a look at that more significant severe weather threat, we do have a 2% probability of tornadoes, 15 wind and hail, about 5.4 million people under the gun for severe weather tomorrow. I think that tornado threat might actually go up to 5% if the data continues to look the way it does right now. And then on the day 3 outlook, way back out here in July 14th, you have that marginal and slight risk of severe weather encompassing a lot of the same areas as we watch more severe weather coming down from the northwest. Day 4 has a similar area highlighted, so we're going to be locked into to this portion of the U.S. for the next little bit, as that's pretty much all that's going to be happening. There's no hurricanes or anything, but several rounds of severe weather possible up here. And here's that jet stream pattern I was talking about. Once we get into Sunday, you can see it really clearly. I call it the slip and slide. We got a slip and slide of storms coming down this way, all thanks to this big ridge in the west throwing up warm air into slightly cooler air trying to come down from Canada. Where all those things meet, you get several bands and potential areas of storms. This is how a lot of our derechos happen. This is how a lot of our widespread damaging wind events happen up here in the Great Lakes region. Not saying that we're going to have any derechos with this setup, but we've seen wild things this year, so we need to expect well, honestly, it's expected, so we need to expect the expected. And this pattern is going to be with us for quite some time. We'll go a little bit more zonal Wednesday into Thursday, but we're still going to have the very real threat for severe weather in the Great Lakes region, points south into the Ohio Valley, until maybe late in the week, July 18th to July 19th. This is when things become a little bit wonky here. We've got a huge ridge in the west. Things are going to be getting really warm. The cool air from Canada that's been fighting to get down and causing our thunderstorms is actually going to succeed, it looks like, as we go into the weekend. This might lead to another brief period of somewhat quiet weather, and then things will pick back up after that. The big change that we're going to see in association with that weather pattern change is we're all warm, we've all been really hot, but whenever that trough actually dips down into the eastern part of the U.S., it's going to get a lot warmer in the west, especially farther north, and we're really going to experience a period of cooler than average weather here in a lot of places that would welcome it, I'm sure, in the central and eastern U.S., all the way down into the southeast. Some places could, for several days in a row, be 20 to 30 degrees below average, which is going to feel just nuts if you've been in constant 90 to 100 degree heat here recently. Climate Prediction Center pretty much seeing the same exact thing, 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook. This is what they expect the temperatures to be like starting 6 days from now, going through 10 days from now. It's a 4-day period starting pretty much at the end of the week. 6 to 10 day temperature, much above average in the northwest, a little bit below average in the Great Lakes region. Now, this is partly due to our trough that's trying to come down, but also just because of the recurring storms that are going to be happening over here. It's not going to have a lot of time to get hot if it's constantly raining and storming. I expect that blue blob to kind of grow and settle in more towards the south as the trough actually gets in our neighborhood here and locks itself in. Now, whenever that trough exits in a week and a half from now into the next week, we're probably going to enter another ridge, another heat wave, and then another trough's going to come in and cause more storms. It's July, we're moving into August. Severe weather is on everybody's mind, especially a little bit farther north this time of year. We do have NOAA weather radios back in stock on shopryanhall.com. You guys have bought thousands of these. I really do think that we're probably the biggest retailer of weather radios because I just don't think people realize that they exist and how useful they are. We just want to keep reminding you of them. I know a lot of you guys have gotten a lot of value out of these. It's like having a smoke detector in your house, but for flash floods, severe thunderstorms, and tornadoes. You can program this thing. If you live up on a hill and you don't worry about flash flood warnings, turn them off. You know what I mean? If you only want to hear about tornado warnings in your area, you can program this to do that. I think it's necessary to have in your home because, once again, if you want to go to sleep and there's a tornado watch or whatever, this thing's going to wake you up if there's a warning, even if there's no cell service, even if there's no electricity. These are radios. You know, apparently that used to be a thing, and it still is. It's a pretty good fallback for situations where power's out or the cell service is down. So Midland WR120, that's the more affordable version. We've got a bunch of them out there. We ship these out from our weather house here in Eastern Kentucky. You're helping supply jobs to an area that really needs them if you buy from us over at shopryanhall.com. But if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. You can get these things at Target, okay? The only thing that matters to me is that you have one because they could potentially save your life. All right, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. We will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Ooh.